you'll notice that the trucks look the same as on the RS3. Lehigh Valley had a lot of RS3s. They also had a lot of FAs, which were the cab unit version. Those trucks were traded in to save money. And the reason they bought Alco was Alco was an online customer, and they had old Alcos. They got trade-in value, reduced the cost of the locomotive. 420 in 1964, a little less than a 425. They were in the $200,000 range. This was built for Coxton down there in Lehigh Valley. Well, we go walk through this if you want. This has got a nice cabin. This is the first engine I bought for GVT when I came here. I paid $35,000 for this in 1996. So I don't know, 6 or 7 years at a time I come through, baby. So it's going to chirp out. It's resetting itself. There's a multi-channel radio. This is your telemetry. This is here. Why don't I get over here? You go over there. You can see it. This is the Caboose. Before you had the brakeman and the conductor in the rear, and I hear that big chirp. And so. The brakeman in the Caboose thought the train was getting out of control. He could pull the air on the engineer, emergency brake valve. On this one, you have telemetry and you dial it in, and you can lift this little switch up and hit the emergency button here, and you can reduce the train line pressure to atmosphere on the rear from the cab. See? It wants to know if I'm alive, see? So if you touch the air, you touch anything, the button's there for convenience. If you move the throttle, touch the reverser, whatever the alert will know. You see this, I saw about 2 stand-up heaters, one there, one here, 2 sidewall resistance heaters, 3 seats. That's an old seat, but these are the newer type seats. This thing's probably been out of overhaul for 12 years now. Amazing.
So why were cabooses always red? My kids ask me that question all the time, and I don't have a good answer for them.
I mean, you know, the Pennsylvania Railroads and red, the New York Central were jade green, you know.
Oh, okay.
But around here in the Lehigh Valley, the Reading, they pretty much were red. I think the Lackawanna was like dirty barn paint.
Yeah, okay.
Funny, and then they went to the gray and the maroon a little bit later. And I think that's just my railroad choice.
Oh, okay.
You know?
I don't know if there was a reason.
Yeah.
We go to the Caboose up in Moscow for ice cream all the time. My kids are always climbing all over it. Why are these things red?
I mean, our caboose, we only have 2 cabooses here because we don't use them. But sometimes, like in the wintertime, you have a big backup move. You know, the brakeman doesn't want to be hanging on a boxcar, so we'll put the caboose on. But ours is gray and white like the locomotive.
Okay.
You know, so.
Look at the book one here.
But, here, I'll show you something here if you want. Let me see if I can open this up, Pat. Just show you the 1960 electronics, 64. All right, this is what they call, now the cars look dirty because I usually make them like they're new, but sometimes I have 405. Just kind of over here. But
look to the left here.
This is the engine control panel here. This takes that tachometer off the engine and processes it and sends it to the control system. This is your automatic transition. Remember I told you how some of you said a locomotive can be stick shift? This is automatic. This tells it when to shift. You see? It's actually a 3-speed, but it has 4 for a reason. First, second, third. This is overspeed. The engineer passes out, ignores the signal, wayside signal, it goes too fast at a predetermined speed, they'll put the brakes on. They'll get a penalty application. Everybody knows about it, and nobody will be happy. This is your adhesion loss detection system. Those little axle alternators that were down on the wheel are processed through this panel. This is your excitation panel right here. This is the brain. Believe it or not, all this information here goes to that transistor. Isn't that funny? That's an old style PNP transistor. This is an oscillator, 400 cycle oscillator. It tells how much all this stuff is processed. It tells that little transistor how much to turn on, and 500 milliamps will control 0 to 5,000 amps of output. It's really an amazing system for 1964. One of the first non-communication uses of electronics. GE came up with this. And then this is your voltage regulator. This keeps locomotives have 8 volt batteries. They're very big, very expensive, 64 volts, and then you need a little bit above it to have a positive charge. Now, see, that's the telemetry looking for the Caboose.
Gotcha.
And this keeps the battery voltage at 73 volts. So,
Who maintains this for you now?
Wow.
You're the electrician too.
He's a mechanic.
I fix it for everybody in the world.
The troubleshooting in there has to
Oh, it's easy. No, it's easy.
Really?
Yeah, very easy. Let me just tell you something. This system doesn't break. This is called the function generator card here. This card here is what determines how the locomotive calculates mathematically how it calculates the horsepower. I don't know if you guys pay attention to any of our locomotives. There's a gray locomotive, a 6-axle called the 3007 that runs around. General Electric offered that to us. It was the last Alco at the plant in Erie, and they spent $250,000 on it, and they put what they call -7 electronics, microprocessor on it. It didn't work. GE field service people came, the chief engineer in Erie came. Nobody could make it work. And I said, listen, I don't want to embarrass you guys. I said, but I'm going to put type B in it. You might as well thought I had stabbed them in the back. I said, listen, it doesn't work. I said, he has a GTA 24 alternator, and I said, I think it can make it work with type B. The engineer said, well, do this, and then put it in. So we did that, and I wired it in. The engine left and never came back. We're kind of proud of that. So now GE, actually they're going to come down and see what we did and why we put 1969 technology in it. They want to see, it just didn't work. Sorry. But they're nice to us. I mean, we have a good relationship with GE. They're good people, and they help. And they get a kick out of us because we run Alco. Like I said, everything here is General Electric equipment. Alco and GE were like cousins. They were across the street, and all the Alcos have GE electrical equipment. So, but anyway, there's some of the switch gear. Some of you guys, I don't know if you appreciate this. That's the power contactor. Now you're talking about on this engine 900 volts DC and high current. If you're in a power plant, space is no problem. So if there has to be a service disruption, physical space will blow the arc out. So in other words, you have a current going through, the breaker opens, and the contactor moves that far away, and the arc goes out. This, you're in a locomotive, you don't have a lot of space, you have this power to dissipate. So you can only open the contactor up that far. You don't want to arc like lightning, it'll jump across that. So GE devised way back when a magnetic blowout. The coil, the one side of the contactor is wound like a horn and creates a magnetic field. It's very interesting. So when you get out of the throttle and the contactor opens, that magnetic field blows the arc out like somebody goes like that and knocks the arc out. And those tips, I think in 40 years, I maybe changed 30 or 40 tips on all the locomotives. That doesn't happen very often. And it's very reliable. And they're pneumatically controlled. So in other words, See? Of course, there's no power now. When the engineer calls, see that's made up. See a little discharge in it. But it's all air over electric. Yeah, all pneumatically controlled. Big contactors.
You have to control the power. You're switching between how the field windings are wired together. And
Yes.
So that it's not a resistor in there.
GE is funny. EMD discharged before they shift. GE said we don't care, just shift. And sometimes, wow, bang, 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 but
You're switching on the generator and the traction motor.
traction motor.
How the coils are excited.
Yeah, the generator is excited by the auxiliary generator,
Right.
that this tells it what to do. The traction motor is a series wound. The field is in series with the armature.
Right.
Then as you pick up speed, the first thing you do is you weaken the field.
Right.
Then the motor torque goes down, but the speed goes up, And then at a predetermined speed, you change them into series parallel, and you progress until you're in parallel reduced field.
That's how you shift gears.
That's how you shift gears, right, exactly. One thing that, the stuff that you hear, electrical engineers, they said, well, when you weaken the field, you make the motor unstable. We don't want to do that. Well, wait a minute. We've been building trolley cars since 1890 with series wound traction motors. The systems work for 100 years. What do you want to do? Just want to spend money? People's money? I said, it works good. I get into it with them sometimes, because sometimes they try to do these. The young engineers, and I'm not an engineer, but they try to reinvent the wheel. I said, listen, you got tried and proven equipment here. Well, why do you want to do stuff like that?
Now your locomotives with AC alternating current, do they convert it to DC, or the traction motors?
Yeah.
They convert it.
Converted to DC.
The motors are always DC.
Yes. But the nice thing about that is, on the 425, you have a big 10-pole generator, and that has 10 tracks with 7 brushes in it. Now I'm an old guy now. I have arthritis in my hand. Last thing I want to do is change 70 brushes. The alternator, you have slip rings with 3 brushes, and they never wear out. That's nice. And I can get 5,000 amps out of a GTA 11 and not destroy it. Isn't that amazing? And 1,300 volts. Yeah, it's a lot of power. So there's the air conditioning right there above Pat's head.
That's the other one right there. You shake that open.
Hey, give a little tube. Here, look, I'll give a little tube.
These guys get them.
Yeah.
Does this line run? Do you know how far he goes?
The track is only into Carbondale.
That's it, right? That's the end of it. Okay. Just a little bit beyond there, where the Carbondale basically, where those.
We're still fooling around here. We're going to put a track right here, and they're going to stub end it up there. Okay. I think I'm going to put the sanding tower maybe at the corner of the building.
So you are putting power in.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh my word. My guys today, they loaded by hand 5 tons of sand.
Oh my God.
They did the whole fleet today. This time of year, when you go up to Poconos, you might as well put oil on the truck, because the leaves it's terrible. So this time, for the next month, it'll be miserable. So they go through a lot of sand. and they brought all the locomotives in one day, and that's a lot of work. So you get the forklift. I have over at Natariani or at Damari there.
Yeah.
I got the two back bays of that old building where Anthracite Bridge used to be.
Right.
So I have sacks, 1 ton sacks of sand. It's they're like a tote bag. They put them up in the forklift. They put a slit in it with a funnel, and it goes into the hopper, which is
Where's it going?
right. Well, this engine is not too big. See that square door? That's the hopper.
Oh, right in the nose.
Right in the nose there. And then this one, it should be dead center. This has got a low nose, so it's not so bad. It's right above the diamond there. See the lid? There's two 25 cubic feet of sand hoppers on each side.
Is that
Somebody has, I forgot. Pardon me?
manual discharge or how's it?
No, there's a button or a foot pedal. And it's directional too. Now, by law, you have to be able to override that if you have a collision. Like, let's say the engineer, you'll see that here's the discharge pipe right here. This is the sand trap right here. Here's the air line comes down here. The engineer calls for sand, he'll step on the pedal. Now, if your doom is in hand, you're running the train, you see you're going to have a collision, sometimes the engineer's first instinct is, besides dumping the air, he reverses the motor. When he does that, the reverser throws and tells the sand
It goes the wrong place.
to sand that end while he's going, because he's panicked. So you have a lead axle sand and override button and a little blue light on the dashboard. You hit a button, and regardless of the what direction the reverser handle is thrown, you sand in the forward direction. Hopefully that saves gives you a couple seconds, either bail or whatever happens, But
What you do, you bail?
sometimes.
There's not much else you can do.
Not to talk about a glum thing, but do you guys ever see the movie? It's an old movie called The Greatest Show on Earth. There's a circus movie. There's a train accident in there. I was in a wreck one time where they hit a flatbed Ford head on, and it was just like the movie. I never saw anything. They hit that truck so hard, it jumped off the rail, went 15 feet in the air, flipped upside down, and landed on a pile of steel plates over about 20 feet away. Never saw anything like it.
And the engine just
hardly
fell.
Yeah. Didn't even do anything.
Too many tons.
The car launched like it was a rocket. The truck, it was an F-350, I think, 254.
Find your shop leads back on this side?
Yeah, they're working on that now. They're going to rearrange it. I think this track is there's going to be an additional track here, one for me here, and then I'm going to use that old I used to call that the Berkey siding over there. They call it the hill track. Okay. But we're going to tie that back in. Nobody liked me. I said, well, dig out the switch at Marion Street, and I'll go down the Vine Street branch and come back. And the track department didn't like me after I said that,
That Trent's good fun.
Yeah. Oh, he's a good guy. He is. And what's going to happen is these two tracks are going to come into one, and then there's going to be another switch down there going into the old Chesapeake switch siding, and then I'm going to be able to get out that way. That's just going to be temporary. They're going to rearrange all this in the next year or so, but I need to run through engine house. When you work on a locomotive, an assembly line, even though it doesn't look like that, when I bring the locomotive in, do your tasks, go through the process, and out the other end.
Yep.
Because if you get in there and your locomotive's finished, and you got to go out the other way like the old shop, you have to disrupt everything behind you. And nobody likes that. So I told them to finish this. And there's a switch. This is I think there's both of the switch lane here. One of them. A little history here. Amazing. Everybody wants to ride on rubber. I think back in the day, right here, I think there was 4 mainline tracks here. Was it 4? At least 3. Some places it was 4.
There was 4 also.
Signaled and I guess it was signaled and directional, 2 north and 2 south. And there was towers spotted along the line. In the old days, you never got out and threw the switch. That was done for you. You were routed by a man in the tower, 24/7, 365, and you had your train orders, and you were going from Scranton, and you were going to go to well, I don't know, Nineveh or something like that, wherever up north, and you never got off. You didn't stop. They crossed you over, and it was all automatic. Today, things that they are, conductor, he's got to be in good shape. He's up and down, throwing the switches, talking to the dispatcher, manually lining the track. Different than when I started. I mean, even back when I started, there was still a lot of automatic stuff. So, and that track over there, going down there, that's the Vine branch. That one over the 701 Wyoming Avenue behind DJ Nicholas Company, and it crossed that crazy bridge at Olive Street and Caboose. Yeah, it was Caboose. That diagonal bridge, and then went up the Bridge 60 there in Steamtown. When I came here, they didn't have that little ramp track there on Lackawanna Avenue to come up from Olive Street. So if you wanted to go from the Carbondale line and you had to go downtown, you had to go down the Vine branch. And that was always exciting. There's a luncheonette down there at Larch Street that nobody cared about the signals, and they just parked their cars next to the track, and you would go in there and ask them to move, and well, sometimes they were big tough guys and they didn't want to move. So sorry, it's funny, you know, some of the stuff you remember. So we're excited about this. Is very exciting for us to be here. I mean, our old place, like Pat saw, it is just not conducive to good production. You know, it was hard. So. I'm sorry. What is building cost? The building there was about $1.8 million. That included the grading and the doors and stuff like that. The additional expense that I kind of blew the budget was a little extra track work and some of the things that I wanted. And that price included the bridge crane too. So I got a rotary screw air compressor that's 55 cubic feet per minute. The one down the shop, the old shop, was like a regular old reciprocating that made lots of noise and made 13 cubic feet per minute. You know, that was another $8,000, and things like that added up. But I have to say that the railroad was gracious. I mean, they told me to do what I needed to do, and I'm grateful for that. The building air, the ventilation system in the building, some of you guys might have heard the fan kind of turn on, a little bit of a problem with it, but the fresh air is drawn in through that air handler there. It's heated to 65 degrees, like in the winter it even gets in the building, and it blows from north to south with radiant heat, and it's all on a thermostat, and it just, so far, has kept the building like it's 62, which is nice. One thing you don't want to do is let the building get too cold. Diesel engines don't like cold weather, cold starts. If we let it get too cold, which is okay for the engine, but you're in the building and you start it up, you smog the whole building out. You can't, you know, you get that heavy, sweet diesel fumes, and it lingers in the shop and you can't get rid of it. You know, we thought about all that stuff, and so I think we did a good job there. Really excited about the building. I mean, it's a beautiful facility. I just wish it was a little bigger, but that's okay. It always, you know, that's okay. So.
If it was, you would have said the same thing. I wish it was a little bigger.
Yeah. And just for fun here, this locomotive, this is the competition. This, it looks pretty bad, but it's not. This is a General Motors locomotive. This is the GM counterpart to the black RS3 you install inside. This is a 2-cycle, 1,500 horsepower, long hood forward. I told you guys about braking. It was kind of boring, but there's a 6 brake and a 26 brake. This had a brake called 24RL. Our guys get in that and they look at the control stand and they say, what do we do with this? So I have to show them how to operate the locomotive. You know, but at one time that blister in the middle, this had a dynamic brake option, and in 1978, Conrail sent this locomotive to a company, Morrison Knudsen, out in Boise, Idaho. They were a locomotive contractor. They turned it into a thing called the GP8, I think, which meant that they took the B engine out, they put a BC engine in it, 567, and removed the dynamic brakes and sent it on its way. Why they would remove a $20,000 option that improves train handling is beyond my comprehension, but I would never do that. But that blister there used to be a vent with fan motors and resistor grids, and they just sheathed it over with tin, and they took it out and sent it on its way. So I don't know. It's anything but a hot rod.
So what's your plan for that?
I have to fix it. Oh yeah, that'll be out probably before Christmas, really. Oh yeah. Actually, it doesn't look like much, but the wheels and traction motors are new. I just put a brand new generator in it. The engine runs like we tuned it up. It runs like a top. That one fellow, Mike, the short, dark-haired guy, he worked at MK up at Mountaintop, so he's a good EMD man. I said, Mike, you want to tune that up? He was all excited. He got that thing. He put new injectors and set the rack, and it runs like a top, actually. Doesn't do any business, but runs like a top.
Who's going to paint it for you?
Well, Bill will do, one of the guys.
That's all it's going to take, right? Paint you make it look.
Yeah.
Do you have a separate paint shop?
I'm going to use the old shop. We use an HPLC spray gun, not a lot of overspray, and excuse me, and we were painting down at the other shop, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint down at the old shop. We don't want to mess this up, even.
Right.
So we're going to, we do all the painting, and we use acrylic lacquer. Nah, we sandblast the 4103. I'll never do that again. That was dumb on my part. The sand got in all the controls, it got in all the pneumatic equipment, and nothing worked right for 3 weeks. It was terrible. I thought my guys were going to lynch me after I did that.
Just to make it look nice.
Yeah. And you know what? It didn't even look that nice. I think it peened up the steel, and so.
I think I missed it. Did you say the engines inside do have dynamic braking?
Yes. One thing, whenever I buy an engine here, I always buy, I don't want it if it doesn't have dynamics, or a thing called pressure maintaining brakes. The Pocono mounts are too dangerous to come into Scranton without one or the other, So, yeah, dynamic brakes, it's a wonderful thing. It's
That's
just,
the one with the resistors. Just
yep.
shove the electricity back out.
And the
Into the
toaster.
Yeah.
But that's the competition there. Hey, I don't know. They sold 1,500 of those things or something like that back in the day. So that's a lot for a locomotive,
Does anybody take the dynamic braking and turn it into regenerative power with batteries?
I don't think the batteries could handle that.
It would only be supplemental.
I know that the Milwaukee Road, when they use regenerative braking on the line, they send a train down the hill at the same time they send a train up the hill, and he pumped it back in the line, and the train braking supplied energy for the other train to come up the hill.
That's electric.
Yeah, but on diesel, you just have to waste it, I guess. If you can convert it into fuel oil, that would be something, though, right?
Right.
Right. So, well, any questions? I don't know if I bored you guys enough.
This is really interesting. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Could be here all night, I think. How many train crews are out any given day on the road?
At least 2, sometimes 3. Then Sundays, I think there's 1, but there's somebody out all the time, doing something. We try to give the guys the evenings off, and we used to run around the clock. Like there was a second shift, and there's like a little gap between like 2 o'clock in the morning and 5 a.m. Too many accidents happened at night. Hit too many cars. There's a breakdown. There's nobody around, or derailment or something. So, but on this line, if they're fracking up in Carbondale, there might be there'll be a train out, a local train out. But generally the Pocono, not too often.
Can you utilize the old light power? Is that?
Yeah, no, I'm going to use that.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's not that bad. I looked at the foundation and all that, and one of the guys climbed up a little bit. In fact, we cut the weeds off. They were going to pull them down in the next couple of weeks. And I'm going to get industrial electronics to put my radio antenna. I'm going to see if the radio antenna is good, or put a new one up there. I could talk to everybody from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Putting lights up there too, or?
Yeah, I'm going to put a couple lights. Yeah.
Awesome.
like the old
Oh
days.
yeah, but Larry and David want me to do that.
Oh God, yeah.
You know, I have to do that. I wanted. You'll notice if you look closely, you notice how the track kind of jogs around it.
Yeah.
I wanted it initially, but then I realized, I said,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. They said make it work. I said okay.
Oh,
You know,
yeah. I hear you.
you know how it goes. So,
Oh yeah.
Western New York and
Alcos.
Pennsylvania. Yeah, I help those guys out. So
Cool.
the Alco fraternity is kind of a fun thing, you know. We go to the short line convention. What do you guys run level Alcos for? You know, I said, well, because we can and we make money. You know.
Because new ones cost $1 million.
Yeah. The one thing, you do the math, the box cars don't care. They don't care what's pulling them, as long as they're going. Right? They don't care.
Well, they're a different beast though. Between the smoke and the sound they make, they're
Well, Alcos are funny. I don't, you know, everybody says, hey, they laugh. The railroads come and they say, you run them old Alcos. I used to run them. They were so much fun, you know.
yeah.
Everybody says that.
Yeah.
You know, just,
And I think wasn't the Dixon Locomotive Company part of what made up Alco? So
Yes.
Alco's got local roots.
guys, you know the pen paper building? That was an Alco plant. And actually, where the trolley museum is, that United,
Yep.
that was an Alco plant
was.
too at one time.
It was. Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Coming home.
They closed after World War II. Everything, coal industry started to fall off. at that
Okay.
point,
I
so.
think we need another project.
We have
They took everything down so fast. I
supplement
mean,
the bridges.
oh my
there's no breaker
word.
to be found out in the valley anywhere. Nowhere. None left.
I'll send you a note.
One of my earliest memories are right here was the 150th anniversary of the D&H, where they did that old Reading T1, like one of the D&H.
Yeah, right.
locomotives, and that was here. I remember being here when I was a kid. That had the early 70s.
Construction?
Yeah.
Not very many
Yeah,
places.
probably. Now I remember in Dixon, just north of Boulevard Avenue, there was big piles there. And I don't know if that was from the Marvin breaker.
It probably was, yeah.
I remember that. And I remember Taylor Moffett was
Moffitt's.
there,
Yep.
and the Sullivan was there up on the hill there down where
I
Pittston.
didn't grow up here. I don't know any of this stuff.
And I remember going there, but that's what else
I
was
did
here?
live here.
I can't remember. A couple places.
No, the Marvin, I definitely remember.
The Marvin, yeah, the
Remember going
Marvin.
along 81 when the banks
Cayuga
were burning
was
at
up
night with
there.
that blue
Yeah.
glow? You can see
Yeah,
it
yeah,
by
yeah,
night.
yeah.
Just that sulfur
Which
stuff.
one was right here? There was
Yeah, when
this
I
was,
came here,
the Von Storch
right
breaker.
before
Von Storch
Sequoia
breaker,
burned
okay.
down there,
Cayuga was up
there
on the
was
hill.
a
Brisbane
there was
back
fire
where the
over
biggest
behind.
Christmas park.
Where was that? The guy was
No.
always
Diamond
digging
over
there, right in the south
They
side.
came
Like,
across the valley, they were Diamond.
On the other side of the river, though.
Pleasant.
yeah, the
That
other
was the
side.
old Baker Colliery.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember seeing that over there was going.
Yep.
They were everywhere.
Should we walk everybody back
Yeah,
in? Sure, yeah,
I
man.
was thinking of late 30s, early 40s, I think.
Anywhere anymore. I mean, they're 70 years old, you know.
Wow. Right.
So, but we know how to fix them.
RS3?
That's an RS3. These were built for the Delaware and Hudson, which is this line. They ran
Right.
here.
Right.
And they were new.
Excellent. Yeah, this was the old engine facility, right? The roundhouse.
Yeah, the roundhouse
Is there
was
any remains of that left here? Any pit
just
or
the
anything?
foundation. The roundhouse was actually right there, right
Yep.
about where the backhoe is. It's kind of the right-hand side, and then the radio tower was there, and the corner of the roundhouse was at the stopped at the edge of the roundhouse, stopped at the right at the radio tower, the light tower.
Okay.
So it kind of curved around there. I think it was a 12
12
stall at one time.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it, but I didn't pay any attention. You know.
You from around here too?
No, I'm from Philly.
Okay.
I came up here 20 years ago. I mean, I knew about Scranton. I've been here. I worked on the railroad, but GVT was a customer of mine. They asked me to come on board. I was a freelance locomotive guy, you know. Here I am.
Cool. So, do you do this kind of work on the Alcos because they need engines to pull trains,
Oh, yeah.
and or historic preservation? It has nothing to do with historic preservation.
I mean, it's nice. That's a nice add-on.
it is. People are interested in that part of it.
Yeah, well, yes, that's what I mean. It's great. 'Cause,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Because unless somebody's really interested, you feel like you're just telling people, blah, 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 you know. But when they start asking questions, they know a little bit about it. That's fun. And then, you know,
Yeah.
you get to
Yeah.
show
Okay.
them the stuff that they read in history books.
Right. So, like these old 50, 70-year-old locomotives, how much do they cost to buy them in the condition that you would fix them up? And
Well, that's a good question. I think I paid the GVT $20,000 for 3 of them.
What?
Because they were repossessed, yes, but they didn't run. The 4118 ran, because I worked on that 35 years ago. The 4103 was a wreck. It's a shame I don't have any pictures. I mean, this was a wreck. They're all wrecks when they come here. Most railroads, they buy a locomotive, capital investment. A new locomotive today is between $3 and $5 million, depending on the option.
right?
They take the equity out of it and they throw it away. Locomotives are fixed to death. Locomotives don't break down. Locomotives are made to be repaired. So what GVT did, what I did, was I would buy a junker, and I said, oh, we can fix that. So I put $100,000 into it. There it is.
And not
20
$3
years
million.
later, still
Not a
running.
$3 million.
Where did you locate them? Where were they found?
Well, that's a funny question, but you kind of know where they are. When you're in the business, you know where certain models are, who has what. So you kind of keep your eye out. People are always offering us locomotives and parts, and like a shop will close. If somebody just closed the Louisville and National Knoxville shop, and they said, hey, Don, we have some Alco manuals. You want them? We took them. Somebody will send us blueprints. You know.
Like of buildings, of locomotives, of everything?
Yeah,
I would love
parts,
to see some of that
parts
stuff.
Sometimes you get the paper, the information. Like, see, this came from. This just came. A lot of this. This was a gift. This is a schematic for an RS3 for the 4103. That's funny, isn't it? But that's how they look on paper.
Amazing.
A lot of paper.
Yeah, right?
So
Nice. So you have room for what, 4?
I can put, if I couple them up, a little space, I can put 6 4-axle locomotives or 4 6-axle locomotives in this building.
Okay.
And that's tight, but that's okay, you know. You know what's funny about that? And I'm not an engineer, but the Lackawanna Railroad had a close relationship with the Edison Company. And Thomas Edison, one of the things his lab was doing was fooling around with concrete. And I think
Yes.
the towers that are along our line, they're almost atomic bomb proof. And that, it's a funny color aggregate. It's an off yellow beige, we call it primavera beige kind of look. That, I don't know what was in that formula. That stuff is tough, strong.
Yes, we
I don't know
have.
if you found that out.
We're doing maintenance on some. There are several of the arches on the Binghamton line that are getting rehabbed or rebuilt.
Right.
The first 2 feet is like junk. You can pull it apart with your
Sure.
hand.
But
then
substantially-
when you get inside and you core it, we're getting 6,000, 7,000 PSI. When, normal construction is 3,500.
Right. It's amazing.
So yeah, for 110 years old.
Yeah. Some people say, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm an industrial archaeologist. And they look at me, well, what do you mean? I said, I work in declining businesses, coal, steel, and railroads. I'm last of the breed, I guess, you know.
So some of these,
How's it going?
some of these still run. I know I've seen that one out. 2461's
Yeah.
out there.
Go down the assembly line, there would be 2 lines in Altoona, a GE assembly line and an EMD, General Motors. They take the whole locomotive apart, they put it all back together. We can't afford to do that. We're a short line.
Sure.
So we look at each system and we find out what's wrong or the trouble areas, and we just fix that area. We know let's say the Eddie Carr clutch is an item that never goes bad. So you kind of leave that alone and let that roll into routine maintenance. You overhaul the engine, the generator, new wheels and bearings and wiring, send the engine on its way.
Nice.
So,
And you refurb them and they're good, then it's just general maintenance after that every so
Oh,
often,
yeah.
correct?
every locomotive has to be inspected every day. Every 90 days it has to come out for a test. and that's by federal law. And you have a worksheet, and you measure the wheels, the flange height. This is important here, right here, the width of the flange here, right here. And you have a derailment, and you don't want that to happen. So they're
Hey, Frank.
So how often do you have to change a wheel on there? How long, average, or mileage wise, or they would go by mileage, or how do they measure?
go by measurement. So I would say a wheel set is good for about 5 years. Well, now, going up the Poconos, you have a lot of curves, and it's a steep grade. It's a 1.8% grade. You leave Scranton, and you're at Myrtle Street, you're at full power, and you're doing everything you can to get up the hill. So you have a lot of tight turns, and you're putting sand on the track too. All locomotives have sand bins here, and the engineer will push a button for sand to be slipping, and it'll give traction to get up the hill, and that eats up the wheels, you know. So we're probably a little harder on wheels than most railroads. Electric. Ritstick did the plumbing, and Choice Mechanical out of Moscow did the mechanical work. I kind of was a unofficial GC. I didn't want to be. I'm just too busy, you know. There's a lot going on. I manage these guys. There's 7 of us here, and then 2 in Utica and 2 in the Buffalo area. And, you know, I procure all the parts and make sure all that stuff's, you know, the right parts are shipped out and ordered and so forth and so on. So it's a lot to do.
I would imagine.
And I do all the electrical work. We all overlap. People are talented in different areas. Like Bill's like an engine guy, an electrician. Phil's like an engine guy and a chassis guy. I'm an engine guy and the electrician, you know. So everybody kind of overlaps, so we all dovetail together, and it's pretty diverse group. Mike over there, he was like a field service engineer for MK, and so there he. So we have different various railroad backgrounds, came from different places, and some people came from the trucking industry, and we all work well together. A lot of us have been together for a long time and have known each other for 20 years, you know.
So with the new facility, you're looking to hire anybody else?
Yes, I'm actually hiring somebody tomorrow. It's in the works, yeah.
So do you mainly see this as keeping the fleet running, or are you going to be getting more and fixing them up?
Well, we have a backlog of equipment. We have in the bank. There's locomotives that we don't need right now that can be, it takes us about, depending on the condition, if we really can move and go quickly, no one bothers us, we can fix a locomotive in about 9 weeks. Take it from a junker and put it back together. Oh yeah. But lately with the move and all that, and we haven't been so efficient, but it doesn't take us very long to fix one. And we'll walk down, I'll show you guys all the parts and everything, and it's nice, you know, they're big, you know.
Sure.
251 engine's big, at 16 cylinders, a 10,000 cubic inch engine, V16, single acting, solid injection, turbocharged engine. It's a pretty neat engine for 1951. Still order one today. You know.
Wow.
Fascinating.